new weapon balance changes are now here. The Dusty weapon has been buffed. Before, it was 55% chance to trigger shrapnel on weak spot hits, but now you have also a 30% chance to trigger shrapnel on hit in the body, and it increases to 65% on weak spot hits. The gun was great even before the patch, but now they made it even better. On top of that, the gas mask helmet and its shrapnel damage has been buffed to 150% instead of before being 120%. So today we're covering the Dusty pistol. The Dusty is a free weapon. You can obtain it from looting a POI, which is located exactly in Iron River in Highland POI. Let's get into the basics of how this gun works. You have a 30% chance to trigger shrapnel on hit, and the chance increases to 65% when hitting a weak spot. This gun is based off weak spots, but if you hit in the body, it also works with crit. However, weak spot will be better choice for this gun. Crit rate plus weak spot mix does work with this gun. However, its highest damage will still come from just full weak spot build. The shrapnel no longer ignores already hit parts. What this means is that when you shoot in the head, you can still trigger shrapnel and the shrapnel can still hit heads. With Dusty, this is possible, but if you use a gun like Scar, which is also shrapnel, shrapnel will never hit in the head if you shoot in the head. As you can see, it only hits in the body parts, while if you shoot in the body, shrapnel will hit in the head. Boom. And then lastly, weak spot damage is 15%. So it just gives you a flat 15% weak spot damage increase. That's it. Now let's right click on this gun, click on details right here, then click X on I keyword, and here you can read what shrapnel does when you hit an enemy with a bullet. Its damage depends on the base damage of your gun, so 50% of attack, and it just hits a random part of the enemy. The element type is the same as the weapon's elements, and additional damage can crit and strike weak spots and will decay with distance. Now if I right click on this gun, you can see that this gun deals suppression, deals more damage against deviants. So deviants are purple aliens, you can call them, or purple zombies. Anything that has purple in it, they're deviants. However, this is not a deviant, this is a zombie, which is considered a protocell. And if you click, for example, on this R500, it has impact, deals more damage against protocell. Now, it actually matters if this gun has an element type, which is suppression in this case. For example, when you do a silo, take a look at the debuffs here. It changes weekly. Currently, what it is right now is suppression damage plus 25% against deviants. So if you use the Dusty pistol here, you will utilize the pistol's passive and deal 25% extra damage to deviants. Now let's jump into the mods and presets. So we are using weak spot build, which is going to be preset 1. All of this, by the way, will be in my video's description and pinned comments. You can find the full list of my Google Sheets and every information available on my Discord server. So join the Discord as well if you have any questions and if you want to see the rest of the sheets. Now we are using Shatter Them All on the gun. Shatter Them All will give you only 15% shrapnel damage bonus boost, because we are only hitting one hit part. If you hit 2 hit parts with shrapnel, then you will get a 30% shrapnel damage bonus increase up to 45. And it's not possible to get 45 because with Dusty, you can only hit 2 shrapnel parts if you were wearing beret. You're probably wondering why we're not using shrapnel souvenir. We could be using this, but it's not that efficient because we are hitting only one shrapnel hit part, which means it's not that suitable. If we were using beret, then we could be using shrapnel souvenir mod on the gun. That's why I just chose to go with Shatter Them All. Honestly, the other mod you could try is Shield Breaker, but that would be only good for Leah Lab or something, any enemy that has shields, but at the cost of losing 15% shrapnel damage if you don't hit the shielded enemies, so that's up to you if you want to use it. Any other shrapnel mods though, they are not that great. Like the Shrapnel Smash mod did get changed, but this is only for a crit build. So if you are running a crit build, then yes, you can replace the Shatter Them All with Shrapnel Smash. But we are using a weak spot build, so the Shrapnel Smash will be completely useless for this because we will get the crit rate, but we will not have the crit damage. So the damage is just lost anyways. Next up, we have Momentum Up Helmet mod. So there are 2 options you can use for the helmet. The first one being Precise Strike, which hitting a weak spot will grant you 12% weak spot damage for 3 seconds, up to 3 stacks, which means you can get up to 36% weak spot damage with this mod. However, your gun will shoot slower if you use this. But honestly, this mod is not bad. It's one of the best out of 2, but Momentum Up is still better because you get fire rate 10%, for the first half of the mag, and then after that you will get weapon damage plus 30% for the next 50% of the magazine. The momentum up mod got fixed, so now instead of 25% weapon damage, you get 30%. So before it was bugged. So that's great news. Now, precise strike is good for burst damage, which means in the initial shots, your damage will be higher, but in sustained damage, momentum up will always beat precise strike. So if you're shooting at a tanky boss like in Leah Lab against Doctor in the second room, then momentum up will be better. But if you're killing something really quick like in X1, precise strike might be better because it only takes like 5 to 10 seconds to kill the boss. Also, one thing I need to tell you, if you use 4 parts of Renegade, and the 4th piece, what it does, it gives you extra bullets. These extra bullets do not count for your magazine size. As you can see, my normal bullet count is 26. So when I dump a mag and hit all headshots, I will get 31 bullets instead of 26. But the momentum up mod still calculates your magazine size, excluding the Renegade armor buff. Same goes with overflow. What overflow does is when you reload, it loads extra ammo equal to 50% of the shots you fired within the 10 seconds from the last mag. So basically I have 19 bullets right now. My momentum up will give me 30% damage when I reach 9 bullets on the gun. So right now if you check, I have 39.6 weapon damage. If I shot 9 bullets, we are on 10, we still have 39.6. After I fired this bullet, I will have 30% damage increase. That is because we fired half of the mag. However, now I have 28 bullets because I fired a wall mag, and because I'm using overflow, these bullets do not count for momentum up and bullet siphon mod. So right now you can see I have 28 bullets, weapon damage is 39.6. Technically I need to fire 14 bullets to gain 30% damage increase, so let's do that. I'll fire more than that. We have 12 bullets left, and you can see my weapon damage is still 39.6. I need to fire 3 more bullets to get that damage increase. And as you can see, we got the 30%. So that's the only downside of bullet siphon and momentum up if you use it with overflow and Renegade 4 pieces. But still, even if it doesn't count like that, still momentum up is better than precise strike for sustained damage, and bullet siphon is the best choice as well. Now, Shrapnel Carnage mod, this is a must-to-have. What it does is the chances of shrapnel hitting a weak spot is increased by a certain amount. Shrapnel is not going to hit the weak spots by 100%. We do not know what is the base chance of shrapnel hitting the weak spots, but just imagine if shrapnel base chance to hit weak spots is 30%, then it's boosted by 100%, which means it's now 60%. With that, you also get weak spot damage 25% for shrapnel. That's it. It's a must-to-have mod. If you don't have this mod, then you can stick to Most Wanted mod, which will boost your attack by 15% when an enemy is marked. That's your only other option. So now the reason why we're using munitions amplifier is because you want to balance out your weapon damage. And if I removed all of these temporary buffs that you get from your mods and momentum up and cradle, this is your weapon damage right now, 127, and weak spot is 257. That is very unbalanced. Right now, if I even remove the mod here and added 25 over the gloves, then we would have 282 weak spot and 112 weapon damage bonus, which is very, very low. Let me show you an example of why we need the weapon damage instead of weak spot. So this is the weak spot damage boost on gloves, and this is the munitions amplifier on the gloves. So here we have 25% less and 15% more here. Here we have 15% less and 25% more. And as you can see that this one does more damage. However, it's not that big of a difference. Also, another thing is if you put weak spot damage boost, sometimes shrapnels will not hit weak spots, which makes this mod useless. But if you put munitions amplifier, it increases your base damage of your actual normal shots, even if you don't hit in the head, and the shrapnel wide damage will also be increased. So it's a win-win in the end. That's why you want to have munitions amplifier. Now for the chest piece, for PvE, it doesn't matter, put anything you want. The mod I recommend putting for PvE is Head-On Conflict. It gives you damage reduction when there's enemies around you and 10% damage reduction. And when you take melee damage from the enemy, you will gain another 10% extra. So you'll just survive longer. There's really nothing else to put on the chest piece. I mean, you could be using a quick comeback if you want. So that's also a good one. Honestly, it's personal preference. I will tell you what substats to focus later in the video. For the shoes, you want covered advance. There is secluded strike that you could use, but if there is an enemy close to you, you will lose 15% damage, which means the shoes mod will be not utilizing the core effect, so it's kind of useless. Covered advance, you just need to take no damage for 4 seconds and you get a buff, 20% permanent buff for 30 seconds and once 30 seconds run out, you have to take no damage again for 4 seconds. So that's why we go with covered advance. Slow and steady is also an option, but you gain only 10% and another 10% when your HP is above 90%. You could be using this, but again, just remember if you take just that enough damage that it goes below 90%, you lose that 10% damage. And then lastly, for the bottoms, which is the pants mod, you want to have Bullet Siphon. Now, you might be thinking, should we use Unstoppable? It gives you weak spot damage, and when you're further away, you gain weak spot damage even more. Yes, you could be using this if you don't have a good Bullet Siphon, but the best option is to use Bullet Siphon. It will give you 5% weapon damage increase for just equipping the mod, and then you will get extra 20% weapon damage every 5 bullets fired. However, as I explained, it works the same way as Momentum Up, which was this mod. The Bullet Siphon counts only the base magazine size. Overflow calibration or Renegade set parts do not count for Bullet Siphon. Anyways, if you don't put Bullet Siphon, there's no other option to use anyways, so just stick with Bullet Siphon. If you don't have any of these options, you could be using Reload Rampage, which you need to kill 2 enemies to get that 10% weapon and status damage. So you can use that. And now we got all the mods covered. Now let's get into the armor you need to use. I'm using 4 Renegade pieces and 1 Bastille. Now, if you don't like Bastille, you could be replacing that with a Lone Wolf Mask for magazine size increase. I recommend to have more than 20 bullets in your mag. The more bullets you have in your mag, the better, because you will be utilizing your Momentum Up and Bullet Siphon. For this build, we are using Gas-Tied Helmet, by the way. And you could be using Beret if you don't have enough Starchrome. But I mean, who nowadays doesn't have enough Starchrome? The recent update just gave us like 1 million Starchrome. So get the Gas-Tied Helmet and that's it. So the substats you need to focus for this build is weak spot damage, damage against green ones, weapon damage, and magazine capacity is the most important one. The more bullets you have, the more damage you're gonna do, because you'll be utilizing the Bullet Siphon mod. If you don't want magazine capacity, you can go with weak spot, weapon damage, damage against elites, and damage against gray ones. Do note that damage against gray ones is the only substat you want. You don't want normal enemies. And please, for the love of God, stop testing your damage on the dummy. You cannot test bosses' damage on the dummy. The dummy is considered a normal enemy, which means that this substat right here, common enemies, will increase your damage when you shoot the dummy. If you put a mod that gives you normal enemy, for example, look at this mod. It has damage against normal enemies plus 10. Now, I have 12% damage bonus against common enemies, and then my damage will be higher on the dummy, which means it will be fake, and it will make you think that you're doing more damage and the mod is better, while on bosses, it's not. This mod isn't that great for bossing, it would be only good for clearing small mobs. Damage against normal enemies is the most useless mod substat in the game, so try to not prioritize this. That's why I recommend to focus only on damage against gray ones and elite enemies if you want. But the best one would be this one. This is very rare. Lastly, for what calibration you should use, you should prioritize fire rate calibration. If you don't have fire rate, then try to put overflow with weak spot damage 2 times on it. And for fire rate, you want to also have 2 weak spots. And of course, if you're running a crit build, then stick to fire rate and 2 times crit rate or overflow. Depends what you have. The best first calibration is fire rate, the second one is overflow, and the third one is precision. For the weapon accessories we're using, you have to have the suppressor. It will give you the highest range, which means you will have the least damage fall off when shooting far range. Sights, there's only one, but honestly the blue one might be better because you get more stability, so you can put that. The aiming speed doesn't really matter. Then for the laser, you can put integrated laser sight. If you don't like that, put this. You will have less recoil, but less accuracy, so that's why I stick with this one. And you want to have the gold mag for sure, because you get more magazine size. If you put the purple one, you'll have less mag. As always, we need the highest mag possible for this gun. Lastly, what cradle you should use for this build. Pistol damage increased by 15%, anti-regen, must have. You don't need anti-phase, but I mean, you will shoot with a sniper to mark the boss and shoot it 3 times to get a 45% weak spot damage boost. So that's why we're using this sniper cradle. There's nothing really else to use. However, if you don't want to use this, then you can remove it and replace it with this one. When you call your deviation, you will be tankier. It will give you a shield, 30% of your current max HP. And then we have Sky Operation. We have Tactical Combo, 25% weapon damage increase when you swap a weapon. We have Deviation Master, 25% damage to gray ones when you summon a deviation and while it's active. Honestly, instead of this, you could be placing a Lone Walker, and what this does is lets you heal faster. It also reduces the cooldown, and it increases the healing amount you receive from activators. So you can use this if you're running solo. And then deadly combo will be needed for shrapnel. Tracking bullet will be needed for shrapnel. And then you will need bounty hunter. Also, you can remove the sky operation. This is only for damage reduce. And you will need to have steady hand for sure. This is the most important one as well. So if you have any slots available, you can either use this, or the Lone Walker. Up to you what you need. And that's it for the Cradle. Lastly, what hides do you put on your armor pieces? On the gas helmet, you will need to put non-weak spot damage reduction for PvE. What this does is reduces your damage received in the body, but not the head. Mobs cannot hit you in the head, so this will give you a flat 5% non-weak spot damage reduction, which is a separate new multiplier. For the hide on the mask, you will need golden wool, and the reason why we need golden wool and not mountain cowhide is because the gun has a suppression elemental type. If you take a look at mountain cowhide, it gives you non-elemental damage plus 8% when stamina is at least 120. The gun is an elemental type. The mountain cowhide will do nothing at all for this gun. For example, if you take a look at wildfire, this gun has no elemental attributes or damage bonus, which means mountain cowhide will work for this gun. But the dusty does, so it will not work. If you want to know which weapons are affected by mounted cowhide, you can click here on the bottom left and click filter by damage attribute, none. And then it will show you every weapon in the game that has no elemental attribute. You can simply just right click the gun and it will say no elemental attributes or damage bonus. The hides you want for the gloves is just a crocodile hide for farming, no damage boost here. Hides for the boots you want is golden wool. Roll speed fluctuates between 1% and 15% every second. This is what allows me to roll super far away. For the top piece, you want to have Wasteland Wolfskin. If you're not playing in Way of Winter, then just stick to that. And Wasteland Wolfskin on the pants as well. If you want to see a full list of my Google Sheet for the hides, it will be in the description down below. Well, ladies and gents, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. And as always, feel free to join my Discord if you have any questions, or leave a comment down below if you have any questions. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and peace out.